Hello and welcome to the Dirt and the Divine. I'm Krisha Young, your host, an executive growth strategist, author, and an advocate for living a fully aligned, unapologetic life. This podcast is built on the philosophy that every beautiful life has its roots in both the messy and the magnificent. Here we share raw and real stories from incredible individuals, my friends, people I know, people I don't know, who face life's toughest challenges head on, dug really deep into their souls, and took radical personal responsibility for their lives. They didn't run or hide from their struggles. They explored their emotional landscapes, owned their experiences, and emerged authentically, living in joy and alignment. Through these conversations, my hope is to inspire you to think, wow, if they went through all of that and found happiness, so can I. This space is about embracing the journey, the dirt, and the divine, because together they shape a life worth living. Please note that this podcast is for general discussion only and is not a suitable replacement for or substitute for therapy, legal, or professional advice. So now let's get started. I'm so excited. Today's guest is one of my absolute, yay, besties, Maria Diaz. She's such a phenomenal woman. Maria is a transformational coach and resilient leader who empowers women to release shame, reclaim their truth, and step into their personal power. Maria is a survivor of war, a breast cancer thriver, and a woman who overcame a 20-year abusive relationship. Maria embodies love. I have never met anybody who embodies love like this woman. Courage and freedom. With over a decade of experience and 50 grand invested in personal growth, Maria blends lived experience with expertise in feminine energetics, tantric sexuality, and leadership. Her compassionate, inclusive programs help women innovate themselves, reconnect with their bodies, and design joyful, purpose-driven lives. Maria is a 5-1 emotional generator in human design, a Leo, another fire sign like me, a certified Reiki practitioner, and devoted mother and grandmother. Maria is committed to guiding women to rise unapologetically, embody their truth, and live epic, fulfilling lives. And today we are going to dive deep into leading your life from your soul. Maria, welcome.
Wow.
Hello, hey girl.
Baby. First of all, I want to say, Krisha, I absolutely love you. You have been a powerhouse in my life and such a stunning soul sister. And I am deeply grateful for our friendship, for journeying this life together and all of the playfulness, all the fun, but also like being in the dirt, being in the mess together and just thriving and really connecting to that space of being sisters, of being those soul sisters that are continuously supporting one another and elevating together. And I think that's a really, really powerful element that we women embody. That is, it's such a beautiful, magical space. And I really encourage all of us as women to wear our crowns and uplift other women and encourage them to wear their crowns. Thank you.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, let's just start there. Because and then I'll ask you a question that will kick off today's topic. But I want to just like spend a minute in what you just said because we both we're both from Toronto. You still live there. I live in Vancouver now. But we had our own independent experiences as women, before we embarked on this journey. And I used to have like female friends, but I didn't have a sisterhood, and I didn't understand really what that meant. All my exposure to women prior to doing this kind of work was Like I would have women like in like gossip about me right in front of me, like say mean things about me
Mhm.
right in front of me. I'm like, what? Like cut me
Mhm.
down, and just like be mean,
Mhm.
or gossip about other women and be mean about other women, or like cut other women down all the time. And I was just like, wait a minute, this is not okay. I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy,
Mhm.
obviously I don't enjoy being cut down myself. But I
Mhm.
also like really hated it when I heard other women gossip about
Mhm.
other women, and I'm like, she's
Mhm.
fat, or she's not this, or she's not that, she's actually stunningly beautiful, and
Mhm.
then I would get ostracized by them because I wasn't like engaging in this like, you
Mhm.
this soup of cutting everybody else down. And then when I started
Mhm.
this journey, I started like, just to be, cute, I started kind of like collecting other goddesses, because I was like, okay, I don't want that in my life. I want to be
Yeah.
surrounded that women, by women who uplift each other. And
Mhm.
I really wanted to have a very powerful group of women around me that I could be 100% myself and not worry that I was going to be like rejected or cut
Mhm.
down or judged for, my own personal growth journey and the mistakes I was making and the fumbles I was going through at like in this journey. And you're one of the women that like, kind of came in all those years ago.
Mhm.
I'll always remember our first date. Do you remember our first date?
Yes, that was so sexy. We were in the most beautiful, stunning restaurant
Yeah.
overlooking the city,
Yeah.
having delicious food and just being with one another. It was so beautiful.
I know. And then we were trying to get me to come in and do a talk at the time. Did that talk even ever happen?
Mhm.
I don't even remember. But anyway, and then, as time went on, we just started to support one another and start to love one another and just
Mhm.
create that like
Mhm.
sisterhood that you mentioned, that then now has like evolved into, I mean, how many of these have we done? Like this is probably like our 50th or something like that. Remember when we used to do Clubhouse?
Yes, yes,
When
I
that was a
remember all of that. You
yeah.
know, I really think that part of the reasons why we experience the gossip, the backstabbing, that not being connected to that divinity that we hold as women. It's because there's so much fear. There's a lot of things in society that are based on fear. We are so taught to compare ourselves to each other, to feel jealous, to feel like we're lacking something, like there's something missing.
Mhm.
And so we look at other women and we're like, oh, because there's not enough to go around, you know, which comes from that same fear, that same lack, then I need to hurt you. I need to put you down. I need to discredit you in order for me to succeed. And I think that's a really old paradigm to live from. And I have proof. I have proof. You know, I used to be a mortgage broker before I started my coaching business, and I did that for 17 years. And about 5 years into it, I was working out of a brokerage where there was a lot of other mortgage agents working there. And we used to work inside a real estate office, which real estate agents are some of the biggest revenue for us. They bring a lot of clients. And so everybody's fighting over and going after all the agents. And what a friend of mine, another colleague, and I experience is all these mortgage agents talking about one another, talking about us behind our backs, trying to get a realtor to send them business, discrediting whomever, and chasing people, and all of these different ways that we function in society. And her and she was just starting her business at the time and had been about 5 years in. And we sat together and she's like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, me neither. And she goes, I really believe that there's enough abundance to go around. Like there's more than enough clientele and realtors and like, there's no way we can take care of all of them. And I said, I completely agree. So we made a verbal agreement between us that we weren't gonna disrespect one another. We weren't gonna cheat each other. We weren't gonna steal business from one another. We weren't gonna go after each other's realtors once we had already an established relationship with a realtor. We would not talk about each other behind our backs. And we became the top 2 mortgage agents in that office.
Yeah.
Why? Why? Because we worked together and we were competitors.
Mm-hmm.
We were going after the same kind of business. We were both relentless, powerful women growing our businesses. So we could have done whatever it took to try to destroy one another. But that is a waste of your life force, your energy, and it doesn't benefit anyone. I believe that gossip is poison.
It is. And if you read the 4 agreements, they talk about it here.
It is.
And okay, we need to segue now into today's topic.
Yes.
It's soul destroying.
It's
soul destroying. Think about that. Okay, so cool. You've got all this success because you've clawed your way to the top and you've like, cut everybody down. You've gossiped about all these people, but how do you feel inside about yourself? You know what I mean? Like it's kind of soul destroying. And, like this way of working, you still get the same success. Like, but your soul is happy, like you're happy, you're glowing, all that. Anyway, so let's get into I love all this. Oh my gosh, that is a whole see, you and we're gonna have like probably 100 topics. All right, let me ask you a question, Maria. What does it mean to you to lead your life from your soul? And how do you differentiate the voice of your soul and the noise of external expectations or fear? Maybe we could even use your example that you just, shared or whatever you want to go, wherever you want to go with this.
So for me, listening to my soul throughout the years has actually been a scary experience. The way that I grew up in a strict household, went into a toxic codependent relationship. And so when I came out of all of that, I didn't even know who I was. So hence I didn't trust myself because I felt lost. I felt that if I guided myself based on my choices, that everything was going to go to hell. And so what really made a difference for me once I ended that relationship, which that was the catalyst. So in 2014, I had breast cancer and I had to face death. And facing death started showing me all the places where I wasn't living. It started showing me that I was somebody who took on other people's beliefs, that I was people pleasing, that I because I didn't like conflict, to avoid conflict, I would just be agreeable, I would just be nice. And that took me down a road of making choices, not based on what my soul wanted, not based on what Maria wanted, but based on what my parents thought was best for me, my ex-husband thought was best for me, my friendships, everybody else, the external world. And I never sat with my own soul and connected to myself and said, well, what do you want? What do you value? What matters to you? What's important to you? And having to face death is the thing that had me sit. It stopped me on my tracks. And when I reviewed my life, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not living anything that's even a shadow of what I want. That took me into a journey of a lot of self-reflection. So it began with self-awareness. It began with really looking inside and being, okay, what's really going on? And now that I see what's going on, what am I going to do about it? And I noticed that the reason why I was unwilling to even look at it in the past and why I didn't see my power as a woman was because I grew up with a lot of shame in my life. And the shame, the heaviness of shame stopped me in everything. So the difference between looking at, okay, am I leading from my soul or am I leading from, what other people say, is actually reflecting and having that self-awareness, actually sitting in silence and listening to yourself, asking yourself, what do I really value? And connecting to that. Like for me, I discovered that my core values are love, courage, and freedom. And so it's like, okay, that's what I value. Now, how do those things play out in my life? Because one thing is to say them and be like, oh, it's love, courage, freedom. Like that's my thing. And there's another thing to actually embody them. And in order for me to embody those core values, I had to discover that I matter and that I am worthy and that I am valuable and I add value. Mm-hmm. And there's no negotiating that. I am valuable and I add value. Why? Because God created me.
I love it. I love it. I was making some notes here in what you were saying, and there was that sense of like I've had a similar but very different journey, like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't face death, and my values are slightly different, and like my pathway there was different than yours, but the sort of like the journey almost, or I don't know what words you want to use here, but like that when you said that there was that not trusting of self,
Mm-hmm.
it brought me
Mm-hmm.
back to my body about what that used to feel like, when you put your authority out there on other people, and for me, it was always like, I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know what should I do? I don't know. I don't know. I remember working with one of my coaches or in the early days when I first started this work, and they would ask me something and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And they'd be like, you're not allowed to say, I don't know. You need to go a little deeper. And the thing is that we do know. We just don't trust. We're not trusting, or we haven't allowed that voice enough screen time, to really like turn the volume up on that so we can hear it. And then we're muddled with like fear and everybody else's opinion and all that. So it's hard to decipher who's is who's in there until you start to sit and you sit and you sit and you sit. And that can literally mean literally sitting, or
Yes.
there's that can mean a million different things, but it is that self-awareness, right? And that is always the first step in any of this work, is that awareness. And it's like, oh wow, okay, like yours was, wow, I'm facing death and look at me living this life that is for everybody else, and it just didn't feel right. And I think right there, that's the moment, for anybody listening, or watching or whatever, it's that moment where you start to become really uncomfortable, because it's like, and this can I have a theory on like midlife crisis, that's what this actually is. It's not a midlife crisis in that like pedestrian type of definition of it. It's your freaking soul going, hello, what are we doing? We don't want to be living this life that we're living right now. We need to be doing something else. And we either allow that voice to come up and create something new for ourselves, which is what happened with me, or we suppress it. Shut up, don't talk, no, we can't change, we can't move. But in that, we can't, like, it's like that voice is there, that thing is there, it's pounding, pounding, pounding on the inside of us. And the more those who choose to listen or pay attention to that, it becomes really uncomfortable, right? And then you're just like, okay, okay, fine, what do you want to tell me? Right? And then that's that self-awareness piece, right? And then that's when we that's also when we entered that like dark nights of the soul and deep shadow work and ego deaths and all of that come with it. That's why this is like, it's not easy, because it's like, whoa, like I gotta face that thing now, and I don't want to face that thing. I don't want to admit that that's how I'm living, or what I did, or how I think, or I don't want to have to change that thing. Like, holy shit, look how big this thing is that I need to change in order to like live by my soul. You know what I mean? So it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
And that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because it's like, it's a lot, but it can be done, and it can be done in joy, and look at what happens on the side of it. Yeah, go ahead.
What I want to add to that, which you just beautifully said, is yeah, you go into the shadow parts, you go into these really uncomfortable spaces. And I think that's why we're so reluctant to go there. We're so reluctant to sit with ourselves and actually listen to our intuition, to our inner guidance, to our soul, because it comes with, well, okay, I have to actually examine my life. And again, the shame is what makes it very uncomfortable, right? And so what really makes a difference for us when we have that self-awareness and we're willing to go there is to team it up in partnership and in synergy with self-forgiveness and self-compassion. Because when we go into those spaces, like for me, I allowed my two beautiful babies that I made from love, that I birthed, who I would give my life for. I allowed the deepest pain, violence, toxicity in their lives. Like, that's how they lived. That's how they were growing up, until my older daughter was like 15 and my younger daughter was 9. And so I can easily sit here before you and say I am the most horrible, disgusting mother on earth. And I have proof, because the impact on both of my daughters, they are both still experiencing. And one is almost 25 and the other one is 19. And it's still playing out in their lives. It's still impacting them. So it's easy to say, oh, I have proof that I'm just a shitty mom. And I already screwed it up. I already effed up, and that's it. I'm done. But if I had done that, I would have not had the capacity to rebuild my relationship with them, to take my children and myself through all the healing journeys that we've been through, to do all the self-development that we've been through, to have all the conversations, to ask for their forgiveness, to acknowledge their pain, and to then say, let's continue transforming. Let me show you that now I know better, that I have learned some things, that I have matured, and now I'm ready to have a much different relationship with both of you, and be a different human with my ex-husband, and be a demand for abuse not to be in our lives, and be a demand for love to enter our lives. So it gives us, like, having that self-forgiveness and the self-compassion gives us the space to heal the stuff, heal the shadows, and then show up powerfully. Now I have the most extraordinary relationship with both of my daughters. Their life has transformed immensely. I have a relationship with my ex-husband. There is love in my home when all of us are together. And that was something that back then I never thought could be possible.
Yeah, and like as your friend, obviously, I know some of this, and I've witnessed this. I wasn't your friend when you were in that relationship, so I didn't know you at the time. So I've only known you in this self journey that you've been in, this soul journey that you've been in.
Mhm.
And you know, I'm familiar with some of the challenges that you've been experiencing, you know, as a result of that. And the thing that I want to touch on here for anybody listening is that, like, the takeaway really from what you were just sharing, besides the forgiveness and the compassion, you know, because that in itself is like, you know, how do you forgive yourself, and how do you have compassion for yourself, right? How do you work through the shame, right? There's
Mhm.
a lot of different ways to do that. But the one thing that I want to just pull a string on just a tiny little bit, we don't have to go too deep into this or at all, but it's just like, we at an individual level really have the power to transform other people in a way
Mhm.
based on our commitment to our own healing journey. And what you did in yours is, you know, you had your awakening, you had your awareness while you were facing death, and then you
Mhm.
went through your own iteration, right? Like you followed your own
Yeah.
path. I do think that soul work is extremely individual. You know, it's very,
Mhm.
very, very,
Yes.
very deeply personal journey. And you know, there's no one prescription for it. You know, it's like you got to follow it, right? You got to, that's why listening to yourself is so important, because you got to follow what it says to do and who to be guided by, and all that. And
Yes.
as you were going through that, you were following, you were listening, you were learning, you were self-guiding, you were self-coaching.
Mhm.
And then it's like this osmosis, like you're pouring love into yourself and compassion into yourself, which now
Mhm.
you're vibrating and you're emanating that. Now you're around your daughters. If you're emanating and vibrating shame, you're going to be angry. Like, think about that, right? Like, what does shame do to you? It makes you irritated, it makes you angry, it makes you bitter, resentful,
Mhm.
like
Yes.
lashes, you lash out, you blame, right? Because you're so deeply uncomfortable in yourself around that sensation of shame, which is a really
Mhm.
harsh vibration to have for yourself, right? So now you're going to
Mhm.
project that out onto everybody else. Whereas
Mhm.
if you're working on that, and you're working on that compassion and that love, and you're like, I love myself, or I like myself, or I'm just starting to like myself, you know, like it starts with there. And
Yeah.
I'm just starting to have a little bit of like softness for myself, you know, in the beginning, right? Then think about how that parlays, right? Like now that vibration is just there. You could just be sitting watching TV, or just in the grocery store, or just something.
Mhm.
Now you're
Mhm.
emanating something slightly different, and then those around you are not bouncing off shame and harsh and criticism and judgment and blame and all that. They're now bouncing off something that's like a little softer, like, oh, mom's not whatever, you
Mhm.
know, like, or dad's not feeling lashing out this way anymore, or mom's not sitting in the corner crying anymore, or whatever, you know, whatever it is that we do when we're in shame, and when we're in
Mhm.
those vibrations. It works by osmosis. And I find that the more you do this work on yourself, the less you really need to even kind of do on for or with anybody else. But then in your case, because your daughters were impacted because of the work that you did on yourself, you were then able to guide and kind of teach them
Mhm.
to be like, yeah, you were exposed to this. Yes, that has impacted who you are and how you show up and how you think about life and yourself. And here's some guides and tools that you can follow or not follow or whatever, that I've come across that might be helpful for you. And here I am now, a safe space for you to
Mhm.
um you know, explore and journey in this on your own, while I'm over here doing it too, you know. I think what the work that you've done is phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal, Maria. Like every time I talk to you, there's just like a new level that you
Mhm.
like get to in terms of this work, because you're so devoted to it, you know. I love you for that.
Thank you.
Let's go to a question here. In a world that prioritizes um, logic and practicality,
Mhm.
how do you help women honor their inner wisdom and embody their soul's truth without fear of judgment or rejection?
Hmm. I'm going to give you an exercise that really contributed to me going deeper in myself because it was just me and me. So something that I noticed in society is that we are always driven in every angle um, to focus on relationships that are outside of ourselves. You know, friendships, our friendships or relationships with our parents, and then romantic relationships are put on a pedestal. Like that's the end all be all of the kind of relationship you could ever have. And as a woman, it's increased even higher. It's like, you know, if you're single, if you're not married yet, if you don't have a partner, then there's something wrong with you. Then you must be broken. There's got to be something that's bad about who you are because you don't have a partner. Like you're less than because you don't have a partner. And that's BS. In that relationship that gets focused on the least is the one that we get to have with ourselves. And a lot of people throw around, especially now, this like, oh, love yourself, love yourself. But what the fuck does loving yourself actually look like? So one of the ways that I really started to deepen and ground into what it looked like to love myself was to develop the self-awareness, have the self-forgiveness, you know, the self-compassion, and then accept me for all of it. Like I love the woman who went through that relationship and experienced everything she experienced because that's the woman that brought me to today. If I'm going to blame her for all those things that she did wrong, I'm also going to blame her for all the things that she did right that brought me here. Because she did something right. She made some choices that brought me here, or I would not be here. So that's one. Another thing is that I took in one of the self-development programs that I took back in the day. There was an exercise, and several people use these exercises, mirror work. And it brought me to stand in front of the mirror. And the very first time that I ever did this mirror work, I was like, what is this crap? It's it's uncomfortable. It's stupid. What am I gonna get out of it? Like that was my commentary that was going on in my head. But it's very simple, but it's actually very, very important because I was doing it every single day. And so I had to go in front of the mirror and just spend time looking into my eyes. Spend time looking at my face. Spend time with my soul. And then say, like, what do you forgive yourself for?
Mhm.
What do you appreciate yourself for? What do you like about yourself? And actually naming things. And when I began doing that exercise, like I had a long list of the things I had to forgive myself for because I blame myself for a lot. But then when I had to say like the things that I appreciated about myself or the things that I loved about myself, those were challenging to say because in the back of my head I was always like, no, I'm not lovable. I'm a horrible mom. I'm not strong. I'm not courageous. I can't make a decision to save my life. I always have to ask everybody. I'm so afraid to make mistakes and fail in anything. And so asking these deeper questions ongoingly while I was looking at my own eyes, while I'm looking at my face, while I am having to be with myself, and not have somebody else there going, oh, you should say this, or you should do it like that, or you should be like this. I had to start having conversations with me. And then something opened up. And the more I started having conversations with me, it turned into journaling. Like journaling, like, what do I actually really want out of my life? Why am I here? Like, what am I passionate about in life? Like, what are the things that if I knew, nothing stopped me? What is it that I want to do? Independent of anybody else.
Mm.
And just continuously asking myself these questions, and not being afraid to write it down. And it didn't mean that throughout all of this journey that I've been in the past 10 years, it didn't mean that I haven't been afraid, that I haven't been completely terrified, that you know, like I do things in fear. Like fear is there, and I still do them. Like I take the step. I listen to my soul, I listen to the nudge, I listen to the guidance, and I'm like, really? That's what I'm supposed to do? Are you effing crazy? Okay, let's take a deep breath and let me take the actions. I can give you an example that happened in the last 6 months. In the last 6 months. So last year I was working full time, and you know, I had consistent money coming in that provided for everything as I continue growing my coaching business. And from one day to the next, this employment was gone. This income that sustained my life was gone, and like gone. And it right after that, right after that income was gone, maybe like a month and a half later, the romantic relationship that I was in with a man that I was deeply in love with, that I was committed to, we were talking about getting engaged, like looking to the future, like this was serious. I found out that he was being unfaithful, and that lying and breaking trust for me is a non-negotiable. And so, you know, ending the relationship. So the employment, the relationship, you know, other things showing up. And my soul, before I was told by the company that they were releasing me, I had this, like, it was just like, boom. And all that came was, the universe is always working in my favor, and everything that happens in my life is for my benefit, which is something that I used to say because I believed in, but did I fully practice it in my life? And the answer was no. And so this gave me the opportunity to fully practice it in my life. So, you know, as soon as all of that happened, the thing to do is like, okay, I have to go look for another job. I have to go do all of these things. And my soul was like, no, you have to stop. You have to take a moment to regroup, and you have to go and work in your business. You have to go all in your business. You have to be out there more than you've ever been before. You have to go and complete all of these things. I was in the middle of all these different courses and programs that pulled me forward in leadership and embodying my energetics and trusting and all of these different things. So it's like, no, you have to go and do this. And the noise outside of all of that was like, you need to go get a job. Why are you not applying? Are you crazy? Like, how are you going to make money? How are you going to pay for your bills? Where's the rent going to come from? Where's the food going to come from? Where is this? Like, from different angles. And I was like, it's going to come, things are going to be taken care of. And this is what I'm focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
And it took something. I had many moments of just sitting and breathing through it, doing breath work, doing tapping, honoring myself, you know, taking I often do dance parties. Like I put on music and I dance my heart out. Like things that bring me joy, going to nature for me is really healing. So I focused on what do I do? What are the tools that I'm going to use to continuously ground myself every single day as I navigate this,
Mm-hmm.
and as I respect what others have to say and honor them
Mm-hmm.
and listen to my soul. So 6 months after all of that, I manifested in a 30-minute conversation a beautiful part-time job with somebody that I love. The woman that we both grew our mortgage businesses. We had a conversation for New Year's. I called her to say I love you and I can't wait to see you this year. I'm committing to coming in spending time with you. And that turned into what's going on in life. And she's like, I want you to come work for me.
Yeah.
Please, like I need you. I want you. We can grow something beautiful. So we had a conversation and I basically created the job for myself. I start on Monday. Consistent money is back in my life. And now I have developed a program. I like so much has moved forward. And the thing that I am most proud of is that I am more grounded in my personal power, in listening to my soul, and really trusting when there was zero proof.
Yeah.
And
That right there is, thank you for sharing all of that. And I want to kind of loop back on some things here. And because the question, right, was, in a world that prioritizes logic and practicality, how do we honor our inner wisdom, right? And this isn't easy, you know.
no.
And I had like sort of a similar but different year, you know, where I'd lost my house and my relationship ended, and it was just like all sorts of weird things were happening. And what that did for me too was anchor me more. And you made a point about you know, there's so much talk out there about being abundant minded and all of that. And I've, you know, like you, I've been in this world for a really long time, and I know, and I've read the books and I've done all the programs. Like I've also invested like a shit ton of money in this on myself too. Right. And it's like, it's only knowledge until it becomes embodied. It's only knowledge until you actually start to get out there and practice it. It's like going to school, right? Like you're learning you know, in a theory, but then you got to take it into practicum, right? Like if you're learning how to be a surgeon, you don't know how to be a surgeon until you actually operate on someone. So it's the same thing, right? And in that trial and error phase is trial and error, and you got to sit through the discomfort. Like when if you are putting a scalpel in somebody's thing, you know what I mean? Like you might nick them, you might make a mistake or whatever, but the only way you're ever going to know is if you actually do it. Otherwise, you're going to be in fear and just never become a surgeon. It's the same thing here. You'll never, ever, ever become aligned and truly, truly, truly trusting in yourself and trusting in the process and abundant in your core, unless you just trial and error it and like hold on tight when the logic is saying, but no, like that doesn't make sense. But your body, your intuition, your knowing, your soul, whatever you want to call it, is just like, no, I know this is the right way. And so like trusting that is it takes some time. And it's that like, oh, I trusted myself and it worked. Or I didn't trust myself. I didn't listen to myself. Look at me. I panicked. I freaked out. I let's say that's what happened, right? I panicked and I freaked out and I went for another job and now I'm unhappy in my job and like I've been fired from that job or I quit or something. You know what I mean? Like there's all these other scenarios that create so much chaos in our lives when we don't listen to that. And it seems safer in the moment because like practically, yeah, you need to bring in money. Yeah, you need to take care of your family. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we're not talking about being irresponsible here by any means. We're not at all. And however, it's like, and if you had to take something in the meantime, you know, to bridge the gap, then you do, right? So it's not that. But it's like knowing that it would be something temporary, that while you're working, while you're like still pursuing the thing that's right, rather than just panicking. I remember like last year I was I worked in a in person in an office, picking up some executive administrative work, just for a couple of months. And so I wanted to meet some people, I wanted to bring in a little bit of extra income. I hadn't been in an office in a really long time. And they were going through a merger and a lot of people were losing their jobs. And it was funny because like I'm walking in with a job and everybody around me is losing their jobs. And I found it really fascinating because I was coming in with this type of mindset and they were freaking out and they were like, oh my God, how dare you do this to me? And I'm like, what? Like it'd been so long since I'd been surrounded by people who thought that way. And I was like, wow, okay. But guys, this is a real opportunity for you to like explore what it is that could be next for you. Like you're getting a severance, like this is an amazing opportunity. I just saw it as this amazing opportunity and they saw it as this like devastating thing that was happening to them. And I thought, oh, dang, you know, and so I talked about another way of looking at it. And I actually ended up getting one client out of that who hired me privately so that she could shift through that transition and think different, you know, and not get caught up in all of that. So it's like there's sort of like an opposite day almost in here. Like you've got to like go opposite to what the shoulds and the nya, 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 and the fear. And just trust in the knowing, in that knowing that you have inside of you. And the more you do that, the easier that gets.
Yeah. You know how that knowing translated to for me personally is I started like really looking at failure, right? And I said, okay, so I take this time and I listen to my soul and I work on my business 100%. And I complete these programs 100% and I grow and expand as a human. And it doesn't work out with the results that I want, right? Like I have to rush and go get a job and, you know, throw out resumes and like I'm in, you know, in complete need immediately. No matter what, even if my choices didn't give me the results that I wanted for me in my life, no matter what, I win. Because either I make my choice. I say, I'm following my soul. I'm going to make my choice. I'm going to follow my intuition and I yield the results that I want, or I don't yield the results that I want. And if I yield the results that I want, wow, great, excellent, amazing. Yeah. If I don't, wow, great, excellent, amazing. Why? Because I get to expand. I get to grow. I get to learn. I get to pivot. Either way, I win. And so coming to life from that angle has given me back my power. Like, you can't take my power away from me because no matter what happens, even if I fuck up, that right there, even if I do, I take responsibility for it. I'm still solid here, and I'm still like, yeah, I screwed up. So this is let me tell you what I learned from my screw up.
Yeah,
sit. Let's learn together. Let me tell you what this taught me. Yeah. Let me tell you how, because of this, I can pivot to that. Yeah. No matter what, I am going to win.
all you do is win, 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 no matter what. It's true.
But the thing is, all of this about leadership and following your soul and all of it, it is not possible until we take personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be willing to take personal responsibility in every area of life to have that power.
Mm-hmm.
And what all of that did for me, all of this practice, all of the practice over the last 10 years, is it taught me how to alchemize pain into love, pain into wisdom. So now when pain comes in my life, when it shows up, I'm like, oh, you're here. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Let's do some work. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna be sad. I'm gonna be frustrated, disappointed, fearful, the whole cocktail of all of it. It's all gonna be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna learn. And I'm gonna take you, pain, and I'm gonna alchemize you into love,
Yeah.
into joy, into wisdom. And I'm gonna live the most epic life every single day.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about this too, and we'll start to wrap up here, but the thing about this that I want everybody to realize,
Mm-hmm.
because I do, like, after being in this coaching arena for over a decade,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people that talk about, like happiness and manifesting and all of that. And that, like, for me at least anyway, I had this like thought system that once I figured this out, this, whatever this is,
Mm-hmm.
the soul work and all of that, right? Once I figure it out, then life's going to be easy breezy, like that was the message that was sold to me.
Yeah,
It's
no.
me with all my millions. Look at me with my most perfect relationship. Look at me with my most perfect body. And like, oh, like, I mean, seriously, I'm going to be doing an episode with somebody else about the trauma around hiring certain coaches and certain programs
Mm-hmm.
that feed
Yeah,
you messages that are like really not
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And they tell you that, like, if
It's
this,
cool when they say those things.
yeah,
It's like, okay, say
yeah,
all of that if that's where you're at, perfect.
yeah.
But show all of it.
I'll
Like
show all of it. And don't
I
shame
share.
us. Yeah. And don't
No.
shame us because I used to be shamed a lot, like, oh, you're not getting the result. Well, then it's your mindset. You're not getting the result. Then it's the way you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking. You're thinking wrong. You're thinking wrong because you're getting the wrong result. And I was like, but I'm not thinking, like, I don't, and I am such like a fuck no for that. And,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that there is dirt and divine in here, and that, like, no
Yeah,
matter what. So you
yeah.
explained
No matter what.
you had a difficult, challenging year, a job loss, a relationship loss. I had a
Mm-hmm.
difficult, challenging year. I had a home loss and a relationship loss. But so it's like things happen.
Yeah.
Life is gonna still life no matter what. It's like what this work really, really, really does is exactly what you said at the end there. It alchemizes it. It allows you to alchemize it, right? So that you're no longer sitting in shame with it,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my god, I'm such a failure, like I can't even get my
Yeah.
relationship straight, I can't even get a job straight, I can't even get my life straight, like who the fuck am I, like I'm such a failure, I'm such a
Mm-hmm.
loser. Mine was, I'm a loser. I thought I was the biggest loser, and that was the message. I'm a loser, I'm such a loser, I'm such a loser, I'm such a loser, right? And now I'm like, I don't even remember the last time I said that about myself. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, because I know my value and I know I matter and I trust myself now. And even though, like, yeah, I might fuck up things here and there, and I'm a mom of two boys and I don't know what the hell I'm doing half the time there. And like there's all these things that I'm still learning and growing and trying to figure out in my own journey, and making mistakes along the way. But nothing
Mm-hmm.
is a waste, because everything is
No.
learning. Everything is like, oh, it's like, you like, okay, you're military training or something, you know what I mean? Like, or you're training for the police or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's training. You're training for when, like, you're out there in battle or whatever, like however you want to look at this, you know what I mean? Like you're constantly in training. And
Mhm.
we're not here to beat ourselves up if we make a mistake out there in life. It's just like, okay, so what? Like, cool, back to the drawing board. Where was I people pleasing? Where was I self abandoning? Where was
Mhm.
I not listening to my intuition and to my soul? Where was I compromising on my values? Where was I just like not being true to myself, right?
Yeah.
Where was I?
And our bodies tell us, like for me, my body, when I know I am saying yes to something I don't want to, when I'm dishonoring myself and allowing somebody to do something that I don't accept in my life, I feel it in my belly. I get this anxiety, I get this like weird, I wouldn't call them butterflies, but like it's just this weird sensation in my body and in my solar plexus, and just like, and this anguish shows up, and that I know, okay, no,
Yeah, something's
I'm
off.
I'm something is not here for me. Like this is not for me. And it's the more we listen to those things, like when we sit with ourselves, then we get to know our bodies, we get to know ourselves, then we start hearing it, we start listening to the whispers of our body, because our bodies tell us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Emotionally we feel it in, there can be tension in your body, there could be, like your heart rate gets accelerated, you feel uneasy, there could be like an anxiety in your tummy, a tightness in your chest. Like there's so many different ways that our bodies speak to us.
Not sleeping.
Not sleeping.
Not sleeping. I mean, outside of like a baby waking you up or the full moon going a little cray cray, or, you had too much caffeine, or, whatever, outside of like,
Or menopause, like
or
me.
menopause, something like that, but not sleeping, waking up in the middle of the
Yeah.
night and being like,
Mhm.
that's definitely your body telling you like something's up. That was what was happening, like for me, I guess, for many years when I was transitioning, and I was just like, I just can't do this anymore. It's too upsetting for me, you know.
Mhm.
And now I sleep mostly well. Maria, oh my gosh, we could keep talking forever. Um, so we're just gonna have to have more episodes.
Yes.
Yeah, I love you so much. Tell us just briefly where we can find you, like on Instagram, Facebook. Where are you at? Where can people just get the juice out of you?
Yes, so you can find me on my Facebook at Maria Diaz, or you can also follow my Instagram account, Your Orgasmic Life. And that's where I share, my thought processes, ideas, just my life and my wisdom, and what I get inspired by, or the lessons that I keep learning. I'm very open in sharing everything. I don't just share the things that I succeed at, or the things that make me happy, or all the wonderful things that are manifesting in my life, but I also share the heartbreaks, and I share, all the different spaces that I navigate, to bring me to who I am, and that make up my life, because all of it makes up my life, and I'm grateful for all of it.
Yeah. And you work privately with women mostly, right? And so if somebody
Yes.
wants to work with you, is there an email address they can go to, or what's the best way for somebody to reach out to you?
My offerings are on both of my social media, so on Facebook and on Instagram. If you can, under my bio, you can find the link to my latest program, which is Your Epic Love Affair. And it's all about this journey of loving yourself and leading your life. And there's also a link. I have an offer for a special of individual sessions, and you just bring your life to it, and we just create magic.
I love it. Maria, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your wisdom, and being my sister from another mister. And I love you so much. And I thank you for standing by my side always through all the things that I've been through, and for being such an advocate for women and men, you know, on this journey. And, you know, for being such a wonderful mom, you know, to your daughters, and really leading the charge there, you know. That's wonderful, wonderful work that you're doing. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I absolutely love you.
Thank you. I love you too. And for those of you listening, watching, thank you so much for being here. I hope that you got a lot out of this episode, and that you go and follow Maria Diaz. The links to her channels will be posted in the show notes. And if you would like to learn a little bit more about me, you can find previous episodes of The Dirt and the Divine, and about how I work with people, at krishayoung.com. You can find me on Instagram at the Krisha Young. And I'm also on Facebook, Krisha Young, as well. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now. Bye, baby.